Clark Lee and Vanderbilt must play to their identity if they want to have any shot at the college football playoff.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for making this part of your day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, 2 days removed from this game, 3 days removed from this game. Now, there's a lot of lessons to be had here. There's a lot of things to think about, but the guiding question is, what now? What's next, right? And so we're going to talk about the defense. I'm going to get to them. They were out of sync. They gave up some things along the sideline. I think there was a few coverage busts, some things that happened against an elite quarterback that you can't do. We'll talk about kind of what needs to happen on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to look at the schedule, the remaining schedule. Where are the wins? It's a tough schedule. Where are the wins? What's happening? What do they need to do to ensure that they have a chance in those wins? But I think honestly, I'm going to talk about the offense a little bit, right? Because sticking to your identity, not panicking, all of that stuff is vital in all of this, right? Because I'll start there. To me, I think, and as a play caller, I've been through this before, so I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like a little bit. I understand the feeling of this when, you are off schedule. The defense just seems to have a bunch of answers for you, and they're just stopping everything that you do. All your bread and butter plays are being stopped or limited, and it's not a great feeling. And I think it's going to be very important to find those answers. But again, it comes down to sticking to your identity. It comes down to being patient and sticking through it, because what it felt like, and there were times where I thought we had great drives. There was a couple opportunities, scoring opportunities in the second half where I thought, okay, maybe we do have a chance. Maybe we're starting to pull out of this, right? There was the drive right before halftime. Okay, we're starting to kind of pull back into who we are. But I think after Diego fumbled and Bama got it back and they went down and scored, it felt like to me that Jerry Kill, Tim Beck, they kind of went into oh crap, like it felt like when I was watching that, the game was tied at that point. But it felt like the way they were calling plays, we were down by 14 points. And they were doing things to try to push the ball downfield, and it felt like they were forcing this drop back passing game. And what it ended up doing, and it only takes a few plays to get an offense out of rhythm and out of sync. And I think this offense got off the rails a little bit. And panicking like that, I think especially against a great team like Alabama and the teams that are left on the schedule, like I think if you get yourself out of rhythm, because this is a rhythm-based offense, that's going to get you in trouble. Because what Vanderbilt did, what this offense did in the first quarter, rushing for 113 yards, they were doing everything, all their bread and butter stuff. They were getting ramped up. They even took it down the field on the series where Diego, coming off a missed field goal, where Diego fumbled. That series was a really good series. It was, it was RPO. It was, it was the run game. It was Diego Pavia breaking a jet read, and just those things, those wrinkles that Vanderbilt does. And they were still within the bread and butter type situations. And they had Alabama into a blender. Well, Alabama adjusted after they created the turnover, it didn't feel like Vanderbilt really adjusted all that quickly. And by the time they did, they were out of rhythm. Bama was feeling good. The momentum had already swung in Bama's favor, and Bama was in firm control of the game. And it's hard to come back from that. So what are the answers then? So that's the problem, right? You get out of sync, you get a little bit panicked, and it wasn't a full blown like full game panic. Like I think people when you hear the word panic, it's like, oh, they panicked the whole time. They were, they got out of sync, they got out of rhythm, and that stuff tends to happen against great teams. But you have to, this bye week, I think a great way to try to figure yourself out and try to figure out ways to get out of that is to put yourself in those adverse situations. Right? Because something as simple as for like 3 series in a row, you get no yards or at best 1 yard on first down. You're sitting at 2nd and 9. You want to put a pass down the field. I just don't think this is that type of offense, or at least with Diego at quarterback, I don't think this is the offense for that. And it just, like I said, it felt out of sync. It felt out of rhythm. It felt like they were like, okay, we got to throw. We got to get the ball downfield. We got to score now. We got to score now. Right. And I heard a bunch of people saying it was a flip of last year's game where Alabama felt that panic to try to score quick because we were holding the ball. It was kind of the flip. Like we can't, we have to score before we give the ball back to Ty Simpson because the defense was struggling. And it's just one of those things where that's not your identity. Like with the game tied, I still think you have an opportunity to take control. RPO game, there was a really nice RPO play call in that series where Diego threw the interception. It was the play, I think the preceding play actually that led them down into the red zone. It was an RPO play based on a 4th and 1 call. Like I thought overall, you could argue it was a well-called game. I think they were doing some things, but I think there were pockets of time that I think you kind of got away from who you were. And in this league, the margins are razor thin, and you just can't do that kind of stuff. And again, it's a scenario to where you get into situations to where you're not on schedule on first down. You're still not on schedule after second down, but it became conservative. I think the motions decreased, the pre-snap stuff that they do decreased. I think you started, not using a lot of your weapons. I think there was times where I'm like, okay, where's Cedric? Where's Cedric Alexander? Where's AJ Newberry? Where's MK Young? Where's the jet sweeps? Where's the screens? Where's all these setup things? And yeah, Bama's defense dictated a lot of that. And sometimes that just happens. But you have, I think this week is going to be all about finding your way. And it's a learning experience, right? I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but it's finding a way to get yourself back into rhythm quicker. I think is where they have to be, right? And to me, it's just sticking to your identity, sticking to your game plan, sticking to what makes you do, what makes you go. And I think they got away from it briefly enough to where it became a problem. And then Bama, even though they didn't pull away on the scoreboard at the time, it was very evident that this defense had a lot of confidence. They were making stops. They had a great plan. They had great adjustments to what Vanderbilt wanted to do. And Vanderbilt and Tim Beck is usually great at making those adjustments. And I think some of the plays he made were he countered very well. There were some drops in there also that I think had those plays been made, we might be saying a completely different thing. But as a play caller, when you're getting stopped on first down, when you're throwing incomplete passes, when you're getting pressure, when things just aren't going your way, it's a tough deal. And it's easy to fall into that trap. And they did. It's easy to fall into the trap of, okay, we got to get this all back. We've got to hit a big chunk play here to gain a little bit of momentum. And later on in the game, they did, but the momentum was so swung in Bama's favor that it was just kind of a fleeting moment. And that's kind of how this game was defined. Start off great, had Bama on their heels, had a chance to really put them on their heels, did not do so. Bama made the plays. And so it's just, how do you work on that? How do you got to put your offense in adverse situations. It's a perfect week to do so. It's a bye week. You can have some team periods to where your offense is at a disadvantage and they have to fight their way back out of it. It's being patient. It's, as a coaching staff, it's just having those counter punches and not being afraid to go to those counter punches. It's living and dying by what you do. And that seems like the best method. It's just, hey, let's just settle in. Let's do what we do. The game is not lost here. Even they tied it up after Diego's fumble. Hey, the game's not lost here. Let's just go back to doing what we do. Right? Let's get going. And that's how Vanderbilt has gotten out of those ruts before. And it's a confidence thing. It's a whatever thing. But to me, if they want to have a shot down the stretch, and we'll talk about the games remaining down the stretch, they have to stick to their identity. They have to stick with what made them what they are. And it just felt like they panicked a little bit. It did. And I think it wasn't the whole difference in the game, but it was something. It was something significant. And, against LSU, get off to a great start and just keep your foot down and just have better ball security. The play calls I think were at times were like a day school. So it's a learning experience. Like I said, it's something that they can gather, they can take and say, all right, let's fix this, and we'll be better at it the next time we take the field. So I'm excited to see what they have. I mean, as I thought about it, it's not a personnel issue. I think the personnel is great. Like, you have 3 great running backs. You have some great pass catchers. You have Eli Stowers, who I think had a pedestrian day, which is unfortunate, but we all know what he's capable of. We all know what abilities he has. It's not a personnel issue. I just think they kind of got lost in the fact that they just weren't having any success on first and second down. And they kind of felt like they were, Bama was able to kind of back them into what they're uncomfortable doing. And, sometimes you just got to fight your way out of that. So the moral of the story is, hey, just stick with what you do. Just do it. And I know that's easier said than done, but hey, I'm excited about this team. I love watching this offense work. And I love when it's all working in kind of a well-oiled machine, like a bunch of parts doing their jobs. And that's what kind of makes it go. When somebody kind of breaks away from that, it kind of disrupts the whole thing as well. So that's just kind of one of the keys to, if Vanderbilt's going to be serious about making a run, that's kind of one of the keys. But looking at the remaining schedule, where are the wins, what's happening, what's next in that regard? How does it all kind of tie together? How do we apply what I just said to the remaining schedule, and how does that all sync up? We'll talk about that next. All right, PrizePicks, though. I want to talk about PrizePicks, man. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is so much fun. It's a simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and guess what? You're in the game, right? It's exciting. It gives you something to watch for. I love how quick it is. I can make a lineup in under a minute. My favorite part, it just added as stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. It's also a fun way to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with one click as well. So anybody that's associated with PrizePicks, it's great, man. And the new injury reboot feature, if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. So it's like, man, you got this great stack, and all of a sudden dude goes down with a hamstring in the first quarter, and you're like, oh man, I'm screwed. Not so fast. The injury reboot feature is that gives you that, I guess gives you that boost, I should say. So download the PrizePicks apps today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Chris Gordy, if you need a second listen, Locked On SEC, phenomenal show, dude. It's top notch. This whole SEC lineup on this network is top notch. So be sure to check out all the shows that we have to offer. So looking at the remaining schedule, right? Because it's important if you're going to make a run, which you still have that all in front of you, and you proved a lot in this game. Like I think you proved a good bit, even though I think some of the differences were obviously turnovers. I think you got away from what got you there. And not all the time, but it just was a more inconsistently called game. And it was more of just kind of like, okay, well, we just kind of got out of rhythm there. But we're, looking at the remaining schedule, where are the wins, right? Where are the wins? Like, where does Vanderbilt have a chance at this? Like, where are we looking at as far as college football playoff? And I know a lot of Bama fans are going to jump in here and say, playoffs? Oh, yeah, you guys suck. Yeah, playoffs. Yeah, go figure. You're going to go 5-7. It's going to be one of those type scenarios with some of the comments. So I get it. But let's look at the remaining schedule and let's be real about this, okay? Now, I'm going to look at this one with the kickoff times. So you're 5-1. Coming off a bye, you got LSU at 11 a.m., okay? Now, looking at that game, LSU is super talented. Every single team on this schedule is super talented. But looking at LSU, okay, you got a team that's reeling a little bit. And Michael Van Buren at quarterback, he was good at Mississippi State now. He's a good quarterback. He's athletic. He can move. But they don't have Garrett Nussmeier. They're kind of going backwards a little bit at LSU. They just got smacked by Ole Miss, and I think they're coming off a bye this week. So that'll be an interesting game. It's a 11 a.m. kick local time, and that can be kind of a sleepy time slot in Nashville. So that game's going to get real interesting real fast. To me, they have a lot of speed. And their defense is pretty sporty. I mean, they were able to. They've played extremely well all year long. They've got a lot of talent on that roster. It's just going to be, again, I think if Vanderbilt can win against a roster like that, if they play to their identity offensively, I think they'll have a chance to move the ball. But I think there's got to be some wrinkles thrown in there, and I think there's got to be some things happening with this offense to kind of take it to that next level, because we know if Diego Pavia is going to sit back and throw on all three downs, I'm not sure that's going to work. And that's no shot at Diego Pavia. I just think this is how this thing is constructed. I think him trying, I think teams knowing that and knowing that he's not as strong of a downfield passer, they're going to come after that. And so you've got to have some wrinkles off of that. But LSU's defense, I think, can get worn out, can get worn down, and I think you have a chance there. Okay, that's your chance to win, but that's an extremely tough game to win. Coming into the season, I was a little bit leery of that one. I said 10-2 was the record. I felt very bullish on that, and I said losses to Alabama and LSU, and I. Maybe it's not LSU. Missouri, we're going to see what they have. If they're for real, they play Bama this weekend. So Bo Pribula is an animal. And Eli Drinkwitz got this team rolling. They're back-to-back 10-win seasons coming into this year. They're extremely talented. They're well coached. That's going to be a tough game to win. But is it winnable? Yes. Are they invincible? No. But it's going to be, these games are going to come down to, does Vanderbilt stick to its identity? That's the theme of this show. Sticking to your identity. Are they going to stick to their identity? Are they going to defensively? Are they going to get after the passer? Are they going to create havoc? Are they going to make the big plays? Are they going to be able to sync up? In the first 5 games, they were able to sync up coverage-wise, pressure-wise. They were able to mix and match, and they were able to have a little variance, and they were able to have some success. Against Bama, it just seemed like any big passing down, and they were trying to take away the middle of the field, but they're just not good at cover two. Maybe they should scrap cover two. I don't know. Texas, well, they're hustling backwards right now, and I don't know if they'll figure it out by November 1st. They could completely fall apart by then. I don't know. I don't know about Texas. I don't know. They're at kind of a crossroads right now, so that's going to be an interesting game. That game was against the number one team in the country. Now it's going to be they're going against an unranked Texas team. So that game got very winnable very quickly because their team is just kind of falling apart right now after a loss at the Swamp. They're at home, which Texas is at home, which helps. But by November 1st, we'll kind of see where they're at in their season. Have they imploded completely? Have they, what's going on there? But again, another tough road game against a very talented team, but just as a team, they're struggling big time. Auburn, it's a mess, and it's at home. And by November 8th, they could be completely falling apart. The wheels could be completely off there. Hugh Freeze might not even be there. If he gets his butt handed to him by Georgia, he may not be there. Kentucky the same way. They're a mess. I mean, these teams are strong. These are losable and winnable games, very winnable games. So Auburn and Kentucky, you have to get those. Like, those are no choice. Like, those are hands down. They have to be wins, right? Missouri coming into the season, I was like, okay, that's we don't know what, but we know what Missouri is now. Tennessee, I mean, Tennessee fans will refuse to call it a rivalry, but it is. And when Vanderbilt wins, they're going to find out why it's a rivalry. But that game, they're not invincible. They're really not. And are they good? Yeah, they're extremely good. Can they be beat? Yeah, they can be beat. And it's a wide open league, and a lot of these teams can be beat. But to me, the schedule down the stretch, I'm going to put it up one more time. Like, these time slots aren't bad either. Like 11 a.m. against Texas, like, maybe they won't wake up yet. Maybe they'll be overlooking Vanderbilt because maybe they will figure it out. We'll see against Oklahoma. Like, if they lose to Oklahoma without John Mateer, like, we know they're in full-blown meltdown mode over there at Texas. Like, it's all about keeping your identity. It's all about playing Vanderbilt football. It's all about playing clean. It's all about executing. It's all about ball security. Like, Vanderbilt is still at the point to where they have to play extremely clean. They don't have to play perfectly like they did last year, but they do have to play clean. They do have to have some effort getting pressure on the quarterback. They're not at the point where they can only rush 4 consistently and play zone coverage against a talented quarterback like Michael Van Buren at LSU, Bo Pribula at Missouri, who's an absolute stud of a runner. So that's going to be something they have to contend with defensively. Auburn, I don't know what they're going to have. Kentucky is just bad. And Tennessee with Aguilar, who's extremely accurate. Aguilar's probably stylistic-wise, it's going to be similar style to what Alabama gave you. It's going to be get the ball out quick, get the ball out on time, and really just kind of carve you up in zone coverage and really just kind of try to pick you apart. Like, that's kind of what Tennessee wants to do with Joey Aguilar. So that's going to be something you have to contend with. So again, a tough schedule, tough remaining 6 games, but they're winnable. They're doable. Like, you can go 5-1 down that stretch, through that stretch. I don't know which game is your loss if you're going to go 5-1. There's no, I mean, going 4-2 during that stretch too is also really good. But you just gotta, I mean, it's just going to take laser sharp focus. It's going to take playing to your identity. It's going to take this coaching staff realizing, hey, we can actually do this, right? And there were times in the Alabama game where they were able to get back on track and get back to their identity. Even when they got behind on first down, there were some series where you're like, okay, we're figuring this out. Like, we're going to be fine. Like, this is good. Everything's ahead of us. The defense stood up on several occasions and gave the offense opportunities. And That's something that's going to be, it's just got to be a little bit more complimentary football. And the sky's not falling. It's really not. And it may sound like it is, but it's not. Like, it's not far off. It's just like you just find a way to get yourself back in rhythm. Defense, find you a way to affect the passing game a little bit better. And it's there. It's there. The ability is there. It's just little things, fixable things. Like, that's the beautiful part about it. Like, that's why I feel good about these last 6 games. That's why I feel like they're winnable, is because the things that plagued Vanderbilt against Alabama are all fixable. It's all fixable. Not forcing the ball into a tight window in the red zone. Holding onto the ball as you're going to the ground, as you're trying to fight for extra yards. It's breaking down and staying in front of the quarterback and making him honor you and not just sidestep you like you're just, something like a gnat at a barbecue and ripping a 30-yard touchdown pass, like that kind of thing. Like, you have to be under control. Like those little things, making sure you're not vacating your half of the field on, because you're following the quarterback's eyes. Now, that was elite quarterback play right there, right before half on that score with Jeremy Bernard. But again, you're playing cover 2. Cornerback thinks you have his back, and they hit it right up the rail. And man, it's a beautiful play design. It's a beautiful decision. It's just, why are we still in cover 2? So anyway, speaking of defense, we're going to talk about defense, and we're going to wrap up the show next. Game time. That's right, man. College football, it's more than back, man. It's exciting. The upsets are great. The games have been phenomenal. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout, all of that. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Now, I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. And what do you like? What do you like about that? I'll tell you what I like. The app is super simple. Like, you can see your exact view from your seat before you buy. They have zone deals. Pick the section. Game Time picks the seats. You save big. Man, it doesn't get much better than that. And it's faster, it's cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets. It's my go-to from now on. I will never go to any one of those other places. It's Game Time or bust for me. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And our friends at Square is also, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses in the neighborhood, they make the neighborhood. These are all places that become an extension of home, whether it's a sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, whether it's a spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. That's right, man. And what better way than to go to like a Waldo's, man? It's been the heart of our community, and it's still fairly new, but it's one of those places where it's been new for a few years now. It's been new for like 5 years now, but it's just one of those places that it just feels like it's been there for decades, right? And the food is great, the atmosphere is great, everybody's so nice, it's easy, they're efficient. It's just everything you could want in an experience they have there, man. And it's a big spot in the Bellemeade community, and it can mean big businesses for local owners, money spent in the neighborhood, stays in the neighborhood, all that stuff. And I just think it's so good, man. And that's kind of where it's at. So make sure you visit Square, and make sure you take advantage and see why over 90,000 businesses actually take advantage of Square. So, hey, It's the place to be. All right, wrapping up the show here, man. We had so much fun talking about schedule, talking about sticking to your identity and defense and all that stuff, man. Real quick, and we're going to go into overtime. That's okay. But the defense was out of sync, man. And I'm going to talk about this on a future episode. I'm going to go more in depth on this. But I think, like I said, the key to this whole thing is it wasn't – I'll leave it with this. And I'm going to talk about defense more later this week. But this Alabama game was not a typical Alabama Vanderbilt avalanche where it's just you just get just completely swarmed over and you watch it and you go, yeah, we had no shot. And you look at it and you're like, yeah, that was not good. Like this Alabama team is way up here. And even though we're getting better, we're still way down here. Like that wasn't one of those type of games. It just wasn't. And Bama, I don't know if Bama fans will admit this. Some will, most won't. If you look at my comments, most are like, how dare you talk down to the Tide, bow to, whatever. But honestly, it felt like it was the little things that derailed Vanderbilt. And it was the little things that they couldn't overcome that Bama did a great job of exploiting and forcing them, like the psychological edge that just having those guys down near the box, just being able to stop the edges and stop Diego Pavia from running and doing his thing that he normally does. Like just being able to stop that a little bit, put Vanderbilt in a blender. Like that's a very small thing that you can probably counter. But I think it sent him into a blender. I think it threw off Tim Beck a little bit as well. And it just took them too long to get back into a rhythm, and they never really gained it back. Ball security, Bama made a great play. Linebacker didn't give up on the play. He said, okay, well, he's going down. They're probably going to get 3 points right here. I'm just going to go and swipe at this ball. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, whatever. And Diego Pavia just let it get away from his body just a fraction of an inch too much. And Bama defender was able to rip it right on out. And there you go. The Bama defender on the interception played the ball great, baited him into a throw. He made a play. Like Bama made plays. And Bama had to make, a lot of times Bama wins by they're just Bama. And they just win. They just overwhelm you. They're just Bama. And I think Bama had to work in this one a little bit. They had to work to win this game. Like I think Vanderbilt did a really good job, especially in the second half, making them earn their points, right? The defense was out of sync enough to where it just, Ty Simpson had 340 yards passing. He had, he just couldn't miss. But, Vanderbilt's defense, I think, did a great job in the second half, especially of bend, don't break, except for when the dam broke. And there's just nothing you can do to stop it. But this game, to me, says, hey, Vanderbilt's close. If Vanderbilt plays Vanderbilt football, they have a chance. Now, they got away from playing Vanderbilt football, so we won't know if they really had a chance in that Alabama game or not, because Bama, and Bama has a way of taking you out of that, of course. But if they play the way they played in the first quarter against LSU, they'll win. If they do that on the road at Texas, they'll win. Like they can affect Arch Manning. Like that's a defense that can get after somebody like Arch Manning, who's struggling big time right now. So it's very promising. And the things that went wrong in Tuscaloosa aren't systematic things that you can't fix. It's little things, little execution things, play calling things, communication on defense, getting off a block, breaking down and making a tackle, not giving up 20 yards or 19 yards on a 4th and 7 on an under route, like things like that. Like those are the plays that if they're made, it's we're having a totally different conversation right now. And Bama still may have won, but Vanderbilt's closer than a lot of people are going to give them credit for. And I'm going to leave it at that. All right. And I'll come back to you. Clark Lee's going to address the media tomorrow. So I'll talk about what he says. We'll try to continue to unpack this thing as we get closer to the LSU game. And we'll just keep it rolling, man. But thanks for listening. Thanks for your participation. All of that being said, anchor down. Peace.